Welcome everyone to today's discussion. Karibu sana. We are going to discuss about the civil aviation personnel licensing regulations. Yours in the discussion is Maximilian Philbert. In our discussion, we shall be able to discuss about the licenses, certification, ratings, and authorizations, particularly for aircraft maintenance engineers. We shall also discuss about validation, conversion of foreign aircraft maintenance engineer licenses, and ratings and recognition of the engineer's military qualifications. We shall also discuss about the exemptions, general provisions, offenses and penalties associated with the licenses, certifications, ratings, and authorizations for aircraft maintenance engineers. And lastly, we shall discuss some questions related to the civil aviation personnel licensing regulations. Thank you very much. Disclaimer. This presentation is solely intended for educational reasons and will not be a replacement of any document or portion thereof supplied by the authority. You can download the current civil aviation regulations documents from the Tanzanian Civil Aviation Authority official website for your reference. Part 1, Preliminary Provisions. Citation. These regulations may be cited as the Civil Aviation Personnel Licensing Regulations of 2017 and the Civil Aviation Personnel Licensing Amendment Regulations of 2023. The Civil Aviation Personnel Licensing Regulations are standards that provide guidance and procedures for the application, issuance, renewal, validation, and conversion of licenses to ensure safety and competency of aviation personnel. And these regulations apply to persons licensed under the Civil Aviation Personnel Licensing Regulations of 2017 and the amendments made in 2023. They also apply to any person who engages in operations governed by the Civil Aviation Personnel Licensing Regulations, but they do not have appropriate licenses or operations specifications or similar documents required as the part of the certification. Part 2, Licenses, Certification, Ratings and Authorization. The authority may issue the flight crew licenses and the remote pilot licenses. For flight crew licenses, the authority may issue the student pilot license, the private pilot license, commercial pilot license, the airline transport pilot license, the multi-crew pilot license, the glider pilot license, free balloon pilot license, flight navigator, and the flight engineer license. The authority may also issue licenses for other personnel, including the Aircraft Maintenance Engineer License, AMEL, Flight Operations Officer License, Flight Radio Telephone Operator License, Cabin Crew Member Certificate, Ground Instructor License, Air Traffic Controller License, and the Aeronautical Station Operator. Throughout our discussion, we'll concentrate discussing about the Aircraft Maintenance Engineer License, AMEL. Aircraft Maintenance Engineer License categories without type rating issued under the Personnel Licensing Regulations of 2017. The authority may issue the following categories without a type rating for aircraft maintenance engineer licenses. Category A for aeroplane, Category C piston engine, Category C gas turbine engine, Category A and C piston engine rotorcraft, Category A and C turbine engine rotorcraft, Category A and C piston engine airship, Category A and C turbine engine airship, Category X electrical, Category X instruments, Category X automatic pilot for aeroplanes, Category X automatic pilots for rotorcraft, Category X compass compensation and adjustments, and Category R for radio. Aircraft Maintenance Engineer License categories without type ratings issued under the Personnel Licensing Amendment Regulations of 2023. The authority may issue the following categories without type ratings for Aircraft Maintenance Engineer License as follows: Category A, Category B1, Category B2, and Category C. We shall later discuss the meaning of these categories. Also, the authority may issue the specific or group type ratings for aircraft maintenance engineer license, which may be granted for the specific aircraft or engines as follows. Category A1, fixed wing aeroplane turbine. Category A2, fixed wing aeroplane piston. Category A3, helicopters turbine. Category A4, helicopters piston. Category B1.1, fixed wing aeroplane turbine. Category B1.2, fixed wing aeroplane piston. Category B1.3, helicopter turbine. Category B1.4, helicopter piston. And Category B2, avionics fitted to all aircraft. A Category A, aircraft maintenance engineer license, is an entry-level license for aircraft maintenance engineers, which focuses on line maintenance and the basic defect rectification. The holder of Category A aircraft maintenance engineer license can issue a certificate of release to service after performing minor scheduled line maintenance and the simple defect rectification, but only within the tasks specifically endorsed on their licenses. For a Category B, one aircraft maintenance engineer license is a specialized aircraft maintenance engineer license which focuses on mechanical aspects of the aircraft, such as the engine and airframes, but do not involve avionics. For a Category B2 aircraft maintenance engineer license is a specialized aircraft maintenance license which focuses on avionics and the electrical systems, covering tasks like maintenance and the simple defect rectification. And the Category C aircraft maintenance engineer license is specifically for aircraft maintenance engineers who are responsible for certifying aircraft as airworthy after undergoing base or hangar maintenance. The Category C orders ensure that all maintenance tasks in the maintenance package have been completed and signed off by the appropriate Category B1 and Category B2 support staffs before issuing the certificate of release to service. Changing from categories A, C, A and C, X and R to categories B1 and B2. The aircraft maintenance engineers licenses for categories A, C, A and C, X and R, which are still used by the time of recording this discussion, shall not be renewed beyond March 2027, and they shall be converted by the authority into the appropriate B1 and B2 categories upon request by the applicant in accordance with the procedures prescribed by the authority in applicable technical guidance material. Type or group rating. The authority may issue the specific or group type ratings for aircraft maintenance engineer license, which may be granted for specific aircraft or engines. For example, the authority may issue with a type rating on the Cessna Caravan 280B, the type rating on the De Havilland Canada DHC Q400, or the type rating on the Boeing 787-8 or -9 aircraft. Also, the authority may issue with a type rating on the Pratt & Whitney PT6A engine or other engines. But mind you that the aircraft of which the type or group rating is sought must be of a type enlisted on the state civil register. It means here that the aircraft must be registered by the Tanzania Civil Aviation Authority. For the applicant to qualify for a group rating, he or she shall have more than 2 categories endorsed on the licenses. Authorizations issued. The authority may issue the following authorizations under the personnel licensing regulations: Category 2 operations, Category 3 operations, flight examiner, flight engineer instructor, type rating instructor, cabin crew member instructor, medical examiner, and the aviation repair specialist ARS. Our concerned authorization here is the aviation repair specialist, and we shall discuss about it in detail. Aviation repair specialist and the classes for aviation repair specialist authorization. The aviation repair specialist, ARS, is the person qualified to perform or supervise the maintenance, preventive maintenance, or alteration of aircraft, airframe, aircraft engines, propellers, appliances, components, and parts appropriate to the designated specialty area for which he is authorized, but only in connection with employment by an armor. Therefore, the authority may issue the following classes for aviation repair specialist authorization: propellers, computer, instrument, accessory, component, welding, non-destructive testing, NDT, and any other authorization as determined by the authority. Duration of licenses and authorization. The authority shall issue licenses with a specific expiry date. Except for an aviation repair specialist authorization, all authorizations and ratings issued shall be valid for the term issued by the authority, but in any case shall not be more than 12 months. An aviation repair specialist authorization issued on the basis of employment with a specified employer shall be valid for the term of employment of the aviation repair specialist with that employer. And the aircraft maintenance engineer license, AMEL, shall be valid for a period of 24 months from the date of issue or renewal. Part 4. Validation, conversion of foreign aircraft maintenance engineer license and ratings, and the recognition of engineer military qualifications. A person who holds a valid aircraft maintenance engineer license issued by another contracting state may apply for and may be issued a certificate of validation with appropriate ratings if the applicant holds a license which is not under any order of revocation or suspension by the country that issued the license. Also holds a license that does not contain an endorsement stating that the applicant has not met all their standards of ICAO for that license. And also the applicant does not currently hold the license issued by the authority. And for a non-national, a proof of employment from a prospective air operator. The authority may place upon a certificate of validation privileges which are not beyond those granted by a foreign license. A person who receives a certificate of validation shall be limited to the privileges placed in the certificate, and they shall be subjected to the limitations and restrictions placed on the certificate and its foreign aircraft maintenance engineer license when exercising the privileges of that certificate on an aircraft registered in Tanzania. He shall also not exercise the privileges of the certificate when its foreign license has been revoked or suspended. An applicant for a certificate of validation shall present to the authority its foreign license and the evidence of the experience. The certificate of validation shall be valid for a maximum of 6 months, and an applicant for a certificate of validation shall be required to pass a knowledge test in air law relevant to the license that is to be validated. The authority shall verify the authenticity of the foreign license, ratings, and authorizations presented for validation with the state of issuance. Conversion of foreign aircraft maintenance engineer license. An applicant who holds a valid aircraft maintenance engineer license issued by another contracting state may apply and be issued an equivalent license with appropriate ratings if the applicant has a license which is not under an order of revocation or suspension by the country that issued the license, and holds a license which meets all the ICAO standards for that license. An applicant for an aircraft maintenance engineer license shall submit the license in the English language or accompanied by its translation in English language and be signed by an official or representative of the foreign authority that issued the license. Also, the applicant shall meet the applicable aeronautical experience requirements and pass the knowledge test in the followings: air law, applicable airworthiness requirements governing certification and continuing airworthiness, approved maintenance organization procedures, and human factor. The authority may transfer type rating for a foreign license for the purpose of conversion of aircraft maintenance engineer license if the aircraft type is endorsed on the foreign license, and if the applicant is current on the aircraft type, and the type of aircraft is registered in the United Republic of Tanzania. An applicant for conversion who fails a knowledge test shall be disqualified for further testing until after proven practical experience of 1 month is gained. The applicant shall be required to have passed the air law and a composite paper for conversion of foreign license within a period of 6 months preceding the date of the application for the license. And here is that the authority shall verify the authenticity of the foreign license, ratings, and authorizations presented for conversion with the state of issue. Part 8. Licenses for aircraft maintenance engineers. General eligibility requirements. The following are the general eligibility requirements for an applicant for a grant of an aircraft maintenance engineer license, AMEL. First, be at least 18 years of age. Demonstrate the ability to read, speak, write, and understand the English language. Interpret technical reports and maintenance publications and carry out technical discussions in the English language. Comply with the knowledge, experience, and competence requirements prescribed for the rating sought. Pass all the prescribed examinations for the rating sought within 12 months preceding the date of filling the application. And have the technical background knowledge related to the science subjects in mathematics and physics. Aeronautical knowledge and skill requirements. An applicant for an aircraft maintenance engineer license shall demonstrate the level of knowledge and skill in the provided subjects. The provided subjects are listed in Module 1 to Module 32, and you can refer to the fourth schedule to identify subjects contained in each module. And the knowledge test results for an aircraft maintenance engineer license shall be valid for 24 months after the passing of the examination. Experience requirements for license with or without type rating under personnel licensing regulations of 2017. The applicant of aircraft maintenance engineer license may be issued with a license with privileges for aircraft in its entirety if he have had experience in servicing, inspection, and maintenance of aircraft or its components for at least 4 years, or 2 years if the applicant has satisfactorily completed an approved training course. An applicant for Category X, Compass Compensation and Adjustment, shall hold a license without type rating in both Category A and C, or X or R, and also shall have a minimum of 6 months engineering experience relating to the maintenance of operating aircraft in 2 years preceding the date of application, with a minimum of 6 compass swings. Experience requirements for Category A, B1 and B2 aircraft maintenance engineer license under personnel licensing amendment regulations of 2023. A person can be granted with Category A, B1.2 and B1.4 if he has gained practical experience in operating aircraft for 4 years in an armor, or 2 years of practical maintenance experience in an operating aircraft after completing training as a skilled worker in a technical trade, or 1 year practical maintenance experience in an operating aircraft after completing the approved basic training course. A person can be granted with category B2, category B1.1, and B1.3 after gaining 5 years of practical maintenance experience in operating aircraft in an ARMO, or gaining 3 years of practical maintenance experience in an operating aircraft after completing training as a skilled worker in a technical trade, or after gaining 2 years of practical maintenance experience in an operating aircraft after completing the approved basic training course. Experience requirement for Category C Aircraft Maintenance Engineer License. Category C license can be obtained through 2 ways. The first way is through the maintenance experience in Category B1 or Category B2 or both, and also can be obtained through the academic route. The experience requirement for Category C with respect to large or complex aircraft requires 3 years experience in Category B1.1, Category B1.3, or B2, or 5 years of experience in Category B.1 or Category B.4. In this context, the complex aircraft refers to an aeroplane with retractable landing gear, flaps, and controllable pitch propeller, requiring specific training and endorsement for pilots to operate. The experience requirement for Category C license with respect to aircraft which are not large or complex aircraft include 3 years of experience in Category B1 or Category B2. The experience requirements for Category C obtained through the academic route include an academic degree in a technical discipline applicable to the license obtained from a recognized university, and 3 years of experience working in a civil aircraft maintenance environment on a representative selection of tasks directly associated with aircraft maintenance, including 6 months of observations of base maintenance tasks. Other general requirements for obtaining an aircraft maintenance engineer license, including filling and submitting the form TCAA-PEL.004A as required, and also submitting other documents as required by the authority. These documents may include the experience logbook, a curriculum vitae, and other documents. Type-rating requirements. An applicant for type-rating from a holder of a license without type-rating, which was gained following successful completion of an approved initial course, shall be required to have at least 12 months of relevant aircraft engineering experience with an organization engaged in the maintenance of operational aircraft, in addition to that gained during the course. Also, a person shall be eligible for an aircraft maintenance engineer group or type rating when he or she holds a current aircraft maintenance engineer license and has completed 6 months of practical experience on the type or group of aircraft or core component for which the rating is sought, and he has successfully completed examinations acceptable to the authority or course of training relevant to the type of aircraft or component. The privileges of the holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license. The privileges of an holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license shall only be exercised in respect of the aircraft as are entered on the license, or airframes and power plants, and aircraft systems or components, or aircraft avionics systems or components. Also, the privileges of the holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license shall only be exercised if the holder is familiar with all relevant information relating to the maintenance and airworthiness of a particular aircraft, airframe, power plant, aircraft system or component, or aircraft avionics system or component. Also, he shall exercise the privileges if he has 6 months experience in the inspection, servicing or maintenance of an aircraft or components within preceding 24 months. Continuing to the privileges and the limitations of an aircraft maintenance engineer license rating holder is that the holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license may perform or supervise the maintenance, preventive maintenance, or modification, or after inspection approve for return to service any aircraft, airframe, aircraft engine, propeller, appliance, component, or part for which he or she is rated. And while doing that, he should have satisfactorily performed the work at an earlier date and demonstrated the ability to perform the work to the satisfaction of the authority. He should have received the training acceptable to the authority on the task to be performed. And he should perform the work while working under the direct supervision of an holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license or an aviation repair specialist who is appropriately authorized and has a previous experience in the specific operation concerned, or received the training acceptable to the authority on the tasks to be performed. A holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license with an airframe rating may, after he has performed the inspection required on an airframe or any related part or appliance, approve and return the airframe or any related parts or appliance to service. A holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license with an engine rating may perform the inspection required on an engine or propeller or any related part or appliance and approve and return the engine or any related part or appliance to service. Also, a holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license with a radio, electrical, instruments, autopilot, and compass rating may inspect, repair, maintain, function test, and return to service aircraft radio, electrical, instruments, and compass systems and components, respectively. A holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license with an airframe, engine, radio, electrical, instruments, and compass ratings shall not supervise the maintenance, preventive maintenance, or modification, or approve and return to service any aircraft, airframe, engine, propeller, appliance, component, or part thereof for which the holder of an aircraft maintenance engineer license is rated, unless the holder has performed the work concerned at an earlier date in a satisfactory manner. Recency and renewal requirements of an aircraft maintenance engineer license. A holder of an AML, an aircraft maintenance engineer license, shall apply for renewal of license at least 2 months before the expiry period. The holder must have performed the work comparable with that required for the grant of the license for the period totaling at least 6 months during the 24 months preceding the date of expiry of the license. Also, a person who fails to renew his license after the expiry period may do so within the next 12 months, provided that he proves that he has been continuously engaging in practical work for the entire extended period. And a person who does not apply for renewal within the extended period of 12 months or fails to approve that he has continuously been engaged in practical work during that period will be required to sit for an exam before his license is renewed. Eligibility requirement for aviation repair specialist, ARS authorization. An applicant for an aviation repair specialist, ARS authorization, shall be at least 18 years of age, demonstrate the ability to read, speak, write, and understand the English language, and interpret technical reports and maintenance publications, and carry out technical discussions in the English language. Be specially qualified to perform the maintenance on aircraft or aircraft components appropriate to the job for which the aviation repair specialist was employed. Also be employed for a specific job requiring special qualifications by the approved maintenance organization, and be recommended for certification by the aviation repair specialist's employer to the satisfaction of the authority. Also, the aviation repair specialist should have at least 18 months of practical experience or have completed formal training acceptable to the authority, which is designed to qualify the applicant for the job on which the applicant is to be employed. Privileges and limitations of an aviation repair specialist authorization. An applicant for an aviation repair specialist authorization who is employed by an AMO, approved maintenance organization, shall be concurrent with the rating issued to the AMO, limited to the specific job for which the aviation repair specialist is employed to perform, supervise, or approve for return to service. An applicant for an aviation repair specialist authorization in respect of airframe, engine, avionics, or other systems shall not be issued without authorization for the purpose of circumventing the process of obtaining an aircraft maintenance engineer license. An aviation repair specialist may perform or supervise the maintenance, preventive maintenance, or alteration of aircraft, airframes, engines, propellers, appliances, components, and parts appropriate to the designated specialty area for which the aviation repair specialist is or authorized and rated, but only in connection with employment by an approved maintenance organization. An aviation repair specialist shall not perform or supervise duties unless he or she understands the current instructions of the employing approved maintenance organization and the instructions for continuity awareness relating to the component operations concerned. Surrender of authorization. A holder of an aviation repair specialist authorization shall surrender the authorization to the authority when it is suspended, revoked, or at the time the holder leaves the employment of the approved maintenance organization. Display of authorization. A person who holds an aviation repair specialist authorization shall keep that authorization within the immediate area if the person normally exercises the privileges of the authorization, and they shall present it for inspection upon the request of the authority or any other person authorized by the authority. Part 11. Exemptions. A person may apply to the authority for an exemption from any of these regulations at least 60 days in advance of the proposed effective date to obtain timely review. And the request for an exemption must contain the applicant's name, physical address and mailing address, telephone number, fax number if available, email address if available, and the application shall be accompanied by a fee specified by the authority for technical evaluation. Substance of the request for exemption. An application for an exemption shall contain the followings: a citation of the specific requirements from which the applicant seeks an exemption, an explanation of why the exemption is needed, a description of the type of operation to be conducted under the proposed exemption, the proposed duration of the exemption, an explanation of how the exemption would be in the public interest, that is, the benefit the public as a whole, a detailed description of the alternative means by which the applicant will ensure a level of safety equivalent to that established by the regulation in question, a review and discussion of any known safety concern, including accidents or incidents with the requirement, and where the applicant seeks to operate under the proposed exemption outside the United Republic of Tanzania airspace, The application must indicate whether the exemption would contravene any provisions of the standards and recommended practices of ICAO, as well as the regulations pertaining to the airspace in which the operation may occur. Application for exemption. Where the applicant seeks emergency processing, the application shall contain supporting facts and reasons that the application was not timely filed and the reasons it is an emergency. The authority, therefore, may deny an application where the authority finds that the applicant has not justified the failure to apply for an exemption in a timely fashion. Initial review by the authority. The authority shall review the application of exemption for accuracy and compliance of requirements and substances of requirements. And if the application appears on its face to satisfy the provisions of this regulation, and the authority determines that a review of its merits is justified, the authority will publish a detailed summary of the application in either of the Tanzanian Gazette, Aeronautical Information Circular, or at least one local daily newspaper for comments, and specify the date by which comments must be reviewed by the authority for consideration. If the filing requirements for exemption have not been met, the authority will notify the applicant and take no further action until and unless the applicant corrects the application and refiles it in accordingly. And if the exemption request is for emergency relief, the authority shall publish the application or the authority's decision as soon as possible after the processing of the application. Evaluation of exemption application. Where the filing requirements have been satisfied after initial review, the authority shall conduct an evaluation of the request that includes the determination of whether an exemption would be in the public interest, a determination after technical evaluation of whether the applicant's proposal would provide a level of safety equivalent to that established by the regulation, a determination of whether a grant of the exemption will contravene the applicable ICAO standards and recommended practices, and a recommendation based on the preceding elements of whether the request should be granted or denied, and of any condition or limitation that should be part of the exemption. The authority shall notify the applicant by letter and publish the detailed summary of its evaluation and decision to grant or deny the request. The detailed summary shall specify the duration of the exemption and any conditional or limitations of the exemption. And where the exemption affects a significant population of the aviation community in the United Republic of Tanzania, the authority shall publish the summary in the Aeronautical Information Circular, AIC. Part 12. General Provisions. Possession of licenses. A holder of a license, certificate, or authorization issued by the authority shall have in his physical possession or at the worksite when exercising the privileges of that license, certificate, or authorization. A crew member of a foreign registered aircraft shall hold a valid license, certificate, or authorization, including an appropriate and current medical certificate issued by the state of registry, and as it in his or her physical possession at the workstation when exercising the privileges of that license, certificate, or authorization. Use of psychoactive substances. The privileges of a license, rating, or a certificate shall not be exercised by a holder while under the influence of any psychoactive substance by a reason of which human performance is impaired. A person whose function is critical to the safety of aviation, that means safety-sensitive personnel, shall not undertake the function while under the influence of any psychoactive substance by reason of which human performance is impaired. Licenses holder who engage in any kind of problematic use of substances should be identified and removed from their safety critical functions. And the return to the safety critical functions may be considered after successful treatment or in cases where no treatment is necessary after cessation of the problematic use of the substances and upon determination that the person's continued performance of the function is unlikely to jeopardize the safety. Drug and alcohol testing and reporting. A person who performs any function requiring a license, rating, qualification or authorization directly or by contract may be tested for drug or alcohol usage. A person who refuses to submit to a test to indicate the percentage by weight of alcohol in the blood and or test to indicate the presence of narcotic drugs, marijuana, or depressant or stimulant drugs or substance in the blood when requested by a law enforcement officer or the authority, or refuses to furnish or to authorize the release of the test results requested by the authority, or that person is convicted for the violation of any local or national statute relating to the growing, processing, manufacture, sale, disposition, possessing, transportation, or importation of narcotic drugs, marijuana, or depressant or stimulant drugs or substances, shall be denied any license, certificate, rating, qualification, or authorization for the period of up to 1 year from the date of that refusal or conviction. Also, have their licenses, certificate, ratings, qualification, or authorization suspended or revoked. Inspection of licenses, certificates, and authorization. A person who holds a license, certificate, or authorization shall present it for inspection upon a request from the authority or any person authorized by the authority. Change of name. A holder of a license, certificate, or authorization may apply to change the name on a license or certificate, and the holder shall include with such a request the following: the current license or certificate, and a court order or other legal document verifying the name change. The authority may change the license, certificate, or authorization and issue a replacement with appropriate endorsement. Change of address. A holder of a license, certificate, or authorization shall notify the authority of the change in the physical and mailing address, and shall do so in the case of a physical address at least 14 days in advance, and in case of a mailing address upon the change. Replacement of document. A person may apply to the authority in the form TCAA/FRM/SR/PL027 for the replacement of document if it is lost or destroyed. Here they provided form TCAA/FRM/SR/PL027 for the application for replacement of a license or certificate. Please, you can take some time to identify the important particulars which are required when filling this form. Suspension and revocation of documents. The authority may, if it considers it to be in the public interest, suspend provisionally, pending further investigation, any license, certificate, approval, permission, exemption, authorization, or such other document issued or granted. The authority may, upon the completion of any investigation, which has shown sufficient ground to its certification, and if it is considered to be in the public interest, revoke, suspend, or vary any license, certificate, approval, permission, exemption, authorization, or other document issued or granted. And the authority may, if it considers it to be in the public interest, prevent any person or aircraft from flying. A holder or any person having the possession or custody of any license, certificate, approval, permission, exemption, authorization, or other documents which has been revoked, suspended, or varied, shall surrender it to the authority within 14 days from the date of revocation, suspension, or variation. and the breach of any condition subject to which any license, certificate, approval, permission, exemption, authorization, or any other document has been granted or issued shall render the document invalid during the continuance of the breach. Use and retention of documents and records. A person shall not use any license, certificate, approval, permission, exemption, authorization, or other document which has been forged, altered, or to which he is not entitled. A person shall not forge or alter any license, certificate, approval, permission, exemption, authorization, or other document. A person shall also not lend any license, certificate, approval, permission, exemption, authorization, or other document to any other person. And a person shall not make any false representation for the purpose of procuring for himself or any other person to issue or change of any such license, certificate, approval, permission, exemption, authorization, or other document. Use and retention of documents and records. A person shall not issue any certificate, document, or exemption unless he is authorized to do so by the authority. And a person shall not issue any certificate of any kind unless he has satisfied himself that all statements in the certificate are correct and that the applicant is qualified to hold that certificate. Report of violation. Any person who knows of a violation of the Civil Aviation Act or any regulations or orders shall report it to the authority, and the authority will determine the nature and the type of any additional investigation or enforcement action that need to be taken. Aeronautical user fees. The authority may notify the fees to be charged in connection with the issue, validation, renewal, extension, or variation of any certificate, license, or other document, including the issue of a copy or the undergoing of any examination, test, inspection, or investigation, or the grant of any permission or approval. Upon an application being made in connection with which any fee is charged, the applicant shall be required before the application is accepted to pay the fee charged. If, after payment has been made, the application is withdrawn by the applicant or otherwise ceases to be having effect or is refused, the authority shall not refund the payment made. Application of regulations to the government. These regulations shall apply to aircraft, not being military aircraft, belonging to or exclusively employed in the service of the government and for the purpose of such application. The department or other authority, for the time being responsible for the management of the aircraft, shall be deemed to be the operator of the aircraft, and in case of an aircraft belonging to the government, to be the owner of the interest of the government in the aircraft. Extraterritorial application of the regulations. The Civil Aviation Personnel Licensing Regulations shall apply to aircraft registered in the United Republic of Tanzania, wherever they may be, to other aircraft when they are within the United Republic of Tanzania, to any person inside or by any of the crew of any aircraft registered in the United Republic of Tanzania, wherever they may be, and to any doing of anything in relation to any aircraft registered in the United Republic of Tanzania by citizens of the United Republic of Tanzania, wherever they may be. Part 13. Offenses and penalties. Contravention of a regulation. The authority may revoke or suspend a license, certificate, approval, authorization, exemption, or such other document of a person who contravenes any provision of these regulations. Penalties. In case an aircraft is involved in a contravention and the contravention is by the owner or operator of the aircraft, the aircraft shall be subject to a lion for the penalty and may be seized by and placed in the custody of the authority. The aircraft shall be released from the custody of the authority upon
the payment of the penalty, or the amount agreed upon in compromise, or deposit of a bond in such amount as the authority may prescribe, conditioned upon the payment of the penalty or the amount agreed upon in compromise, or after receiving an order of the court to that effect. Penalties and appeal. The authority or any person is specifically authorized by name, or any police officer not below the rank of inspector, specifically authorized by name by the minister, may compound offenses under Part A of the schedule of these regulations by assessing the contravention and requiring the person reasonably suspected of having committed the offense to pay to the authority a sum equivalent in Tanzanian shillings of 500 United States dollars. If any person contravenes any provision specified in Part B of the schedule to these regulations, upon conviction, is liable to a fine not less than the equivalent in Tanzanian shillings of 1,000 United States dollars, or to imprisonment for a term of 12 months, or to both. Where any person is aggrieved by any order made for compounding offenses under Part A of the schedule of these regulations, he may, within 21 days of such order being made, appeal against the order to a court. Part A and Part B offenses. Here I have attached some few offenses which are regarded as Part A or Part B offenses, but for the full list of Part A and Part B offenses, you can refer from the Civil Aviation Personnel Licensing Regulation, 5th Schedule. General penalty. A person who contravenes any provision of these regulations, for which no penalty has been provided, commits an offense, shall be liable to a fine of the sum of equivalent in Tanzanian shillings of 500 United States dollars, and may have his certificate, approval, authorization, exemption, or such other documents revoked or suspended. After completing the general discussion, let us now review some questions under the Civil Aviation Personnel Licensing Regulations and its amendments. The first question is that discuss personnel licensing as a regulation. Personnel licensing is a regulation that describes the standards for licensing, ratings, and authorization for personnel in aviation operations to ensure safety and competency. Question number 2, what is maintenance license? Maintenance license is a document given by the authority to a person who qualifies to perform defined maintenance operations or task on aircraft or aircraft component and approved for the lease to service. Question number 3, what regulations affect an aircraft maintenance engineer in personnel licensing? First is Personnel Licensing Regulation number 4, which is the licenses and the certificates. Another is Personnel Licensing Regulation number 5 for ratings issued. Personnel Licensing Regulation number 7, it's about authorizations issued. Personnel Licensing Regulation number 123, which stipulates general eligibility requirements for issue of an aircraft maintenance engineer license. Personnel Licensing Regulations 124 for aeronautical skills and knowledge requirement for aircraft maintenance engineer license. And Personnel Licensing Regulation 125 for experience requirements for aircraft maintenance engineer license. Personnel License Regulation 127 explains the privileges and limitations of holders of aircraft maintenance engineer license. And the Personnel Licensing Regulation 128 for recency and renewal of aircraft maintenance engineer license. We continue with the revision questions. Now to question number 4, which asks to list the categories of aircraft maintenance engineer license. They include the licenses without type rating and the license with a type rating. We have already discussed supposedly what is the type rating from the discussion. Also, question number 5 asks what regulations governs you as a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer. This is the Personnel Licensing Regulation 123, which stipulates the general eligibility requirement for issue of an aircraft maintenance engineer license. Question number 6 asks what regulation gives Tanzania Civil Aviation Authority TCAA to issue licenses. There are 3. The first one is the Personnel Licensing Regulation 4 for licenses and certificates. The second one is Personnel Licensing Regulation 5 for ratings issued. And the third one is the Personnel Licensing Regulation 7 for authorizations issued. Question number 7. What are your privileges as a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer under personnel licensing regulations? First is to perform and supervise maintenance, perform or supervise preventive maintenance, perform and supervise modification, and after inspection to check for condition, assembly, function and security, and approve for return to service of aircraft or aircraft component. We proceed to the revision questions. Question number 8, what are the limitations for licensed aircraft maintenance engineer? The licensed aircraft maintenance engineer should satisfactorily have performed the work in an earlier date, and they should have received training acceptable to the authority on the tasks to be performed, and they should demonstrate ability to perform that work in a satisfactory manner. Question number 9, if you have studied the licensing regulations, where do you get the syllabus? The syllabus for personnel licensing can be obtained from the Personnel Licensing Regulations, Regulation 124, which stipulates aeronautical skills and knowledge requirement for aircraft maintenance engineer license. And also the syllabus can be obtained from the list provided in the Personnel Licensing Regulations for schedule. Question number 10. What is the syllabus and where is it found? A syllabus is a list of main topics of course of study, and it can be found in personnel licensing for schedule. Question number 11. What form do you fill for application of aircraft maintenance engineer license, and who signs it? To apply for aircraft maintenance engineer license, you can fill Form Air, Form 029, or the TCAA-PEL 004A, and for Air Form 02A9, it should be signed by a quality manager. Question number 12. Where do you find the details of a license? The details of the license are found on the Personnel Licensing 4th schedule. And question number 13, asking you to list categories of aircraft maintenance engineer license. There are about 13 categories per the Civil Aviation Personnel Licensing Regulations of 2017, which can include Category A, Category C, Category X, and Category R. Question number 14. What modules concern Category A? Aeroplanes. Here is that each category has a number of modules which provide a list of topics to be considered for issuance of such a license. For Category A, aeroplanes, these are 5 modules, which include Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, Module 4, and Module 13. Module 1 is for regulations, which is knowledge and skills. Module 2, basic engineering practices. Module 3, common. Module 4, aeroplanes. And Module 13, human performance. Question number 15, differentiate between Module 4A and Module 4B. Module 4 for aeroplanes is divided into two modules, which is Module 4A and Module 4B. Module 4A is the module which deals with small, light, and pressurized subsonic aircraft and contain theory of flight and control, aircraft structure, refurbish, overhaul of aircraft, overhaul, and repair of aircraft parts and components. While Module 4B details the large pressurized transonic supersonic flight aircraft with hydraulic and waste systems and contain theory of flight and control and aircraft structures. We continue to question number 16 that asks, describe the validity and renewal of the aircraft maintenance engineer license. The aircraft maintenance engineer license shall be valid for a period of 24 months from the date of issue or renewal, and the holder of aircraft maintenance engineer license shall apply for renewal of the license at least 2 months before the expiry period. The question number 17 asks, where are you examined from aircraft maintenance engineer license category A for airplanes? We have already seen this question, but for reminding each other, you can be examined from the personnel licensing for schedule, Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, Module 4, and Module 13. Module 1 is for regulations, Module 2 for the basic engineering practices, Module 3 is common, Module 4 for airplanes, and Module 13 is for human performance. Question number 18 asks, who is the certifying staff? A certifying staff is the person authorized by the approved maintenance organization in accordance with the procedure approved by the authority to certify aircraft, aircraft system, or component for return to service. And question number 19 here is asking, who is the licensed aircraft maintenance engineer? LAME. Licensed aircraft maintenance engineer is a person licensed by the authority to perform defined maintenance on the aircraft or aircraft component and approve the same for return to service. Thank you very much for being with me up to the end of this discussion. I would appreciate if you dropped your comment, hit that subscription button, and share this discussion with others. Until next time, thank you very much. Asante sana.